Hello and welcome to Beyond Top 10 Tennis. My name is Dr. Ashley Morgan Berge and I'm your host. I'm the author of 12 books, a CEO of 12 years, and the founder of a startup set on data privacy. Most importantly, an elite performance coach of over 18 years, having worked with athletes throughout Europe, the United States to Australia. Most excitingly, I am the world's leading scientist on coach and athlete performance, specifically behind how to develop a top 10 tennis ranking. My work includes everything from mitigating injuries to conditioning behaviors that set a player up long term for the long game towards a top 10 tennis ranking. I'm behind theories from the optimal performance theory, optimal behavior for optimal performance, the barrier breaker, the rule of transference, to the golden rule. As has become custom, each episode we normally dive into one of my books and share additional insights and dig a little bit deeper. But today's episode is a special edition for the Australian Open that is currently underway. However, today's episode with new key insights plays its own role, like so many other episodes, in developing the player, parent to coach for that road ahead towards a top 10 tennis ranking. So, as always, buckle in and enjoy the ride. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're new, thank you so much for joining us. If you've been with us for some time now, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. But I have a bit of a surprise in store today. You would have noticed, again, if you've been listening for some time now, that our intro, it was a little bit different because the Australian Open is underway. We're only a few days in, and I wanted to do something a little bit special. I've never done this before. However, if you are familiar with my work, the What Is Your Game Missing series, so the What Is Your Game Missing, What Is Your Game Missing Now, and What Is Your Game Missing to Win, has extracted players over the years and shared additional insights on what it really takes to develop a top 10 tennis ranking. So if you haven't read them, I really would encourage you to read them. They are a couple of years, or they were published a few years ago now, so believe it or not, potentially all of your favorite players from a few years ago, whether it was Barty, Osaka at the top of the game, Federer, Nadal at the top of the game, Murray even, and of course Djokovic are in there. Plus, you've got the newcomers that are now or have solidified their place inside the top 10 from Alcaraz, Swiatek, Sabalenka. It's really interesting to see how these players have progressed. Even players I've touched on previously, from Svitolina to Zverev, before their timeouts, or offer obviously very different reasons, and where they were, and they both were at that stage inside the top 10, and they're both very dangerous right now, irrespective. Obviously, Zverev's inside the top 10, Svitolina, I would probably say she's definitely deserving of that top 10 tennis ranking, and we will see, I think, in time. Even Golf's in these books to say that, not quite now was she ready to win that Grand Slam, but it projected her around the time of the US Open to claim that maiden championship win. So it's really cool because one of our other texts, the 7 keys to optimize your life, really is the 7 keys for tennis players to progress inside the top 10. I'm the first to put my hand up that title probably does not do that book justice, but it follows a very similar pattern whilst weaving in those keys. So again, if you've been with us for some time now, I've shared how it's a stepping stone in a manner of speaking. So if you pick up these books in order, they're progressing you towards that top 10 tennis ranking. Again, however, if you are new, this probably sounds a little bit unfamiliar, so please bear with us. Today's episode, I really wanted to focus on the first 2 days of the Australian Open. As much as I would love to share live on the spot, and I was tinkering with that idea, I thought you would get more out of this because obviously, look, I'm not saying no, but it's quite complex, and you'll see, I think, where I'm going and where I'm getting with this, because what we're really doing is that we're breaking down a player's primary mechanics. So to give you an overview, we're looking at whether it's their footwork and their speed, whether it's their vertical movement, how they move horizontally, if they get caught, if I think that speed is there, or if it's lagging. And of course, some players are absolutely exceptional, others not. It does not say that you cannot be a top 10 tennis player, but we're looking at key metrics here because at some point something has to give. So we pull a player's game apart essentially. And again, in the books that I've mentioned. Now, let's work our way up and we can look at their level of anticipation. So are they prepared for that oncoming ball? How they react to that. We're looking at their technique, so key technical parameters, key technical metrics. Timeliness, obviously that height of contact, which is a very big secret sharing. There's a direct correlation between that height of point of contact and a top 10 tennis ranking. We're looking at the flexion and the depth there in the lower body, if they're activating their lower body. I think you see where I'm going here. Obviously I've touched on the kinetic chain, so we want to know if they're obviously utilizing that elastic energy. We want to see if they're obviously leveraging their momentum. And a very big secret here is more often than not, they don't. If they're not ranked inside the top 10, they don't. And these are really big secrets and insights here because unfortunately you have a lot of players that think they can just bash or brunt the ball from the baseline whilst they're not using their whole body. And I think the question is, why are all these players getting injured? And it's a really ironic discussion because as well, your entire almost technical framework, we need to adjust this. We need to teach you how to move your body. We need to teach you how to integrate your whole body. And recall, we've had previous episodes in respect to social media, words of warnings in this respect. And it really comes down to how this feedback or these coaching tips are being shared. And if you are not actually learnt and or conditioning yourself to use your whole body, you're already at a disadvantage. You can by all means potentially progress towards the top 100, but you will not unfortunately progress towards a top 10 tennis ranking. You will struggle towards the top 100, but potentially you will get there because by all accounts there are players inside the top 100, even top 50 that do this. However, other key metrics work in their favour. So there's really, I think we can break it down, and again, if you're familiar, to those 8 keys. And my latest release, which has only been out now for a month, and oh my goodness, that has gone quick, so the 4 weeks, but it unveiled the 8th key. key. So we've had the 7 keys that I've touched on previously, but now that the 8th key has been published, obviously to learn more, please get your hands on it. That's whether it's at AMA International, Amazon, it's available. So no matter where you're based in the world, it is accessible. So I wanted to underscore that. That's really important. But irrespective, we need all of these keys to develop that top 10 tennis ranking. And it's why are there keys? Now we have to look at, and I'm going to remember today because I've missed out the last few episodes on that humanized approach. So recall, we really want to integrate the individual, how humans behave, how they learn, and it's how it is assimilated with the tennis player, because we're all individuals, we're all humans. And we all learn quite differently. So we need to accommodate that. So by breaking things down, believe it or not, into those 7 and now 8 keys, they're snippets. So the little nuggets of gold, in a manner of speaking, that you can progressively condition, and then points of recall. Because if I said to you, I've got 50 pieces I need you to remember, we know that that's not possible. Then that's not saying you're not going to potentially remember them, but looking at that humanized approach, there's going to be some that will remember them, but the majority will not, or will need, you can write them down, etc. That's not the point. It's really about simplifying what you need. All right, I think that is a lot. So today's episode, I want to touch on some key matches. Unfortunately, of course not. I have not watched every single match. I have tried to watch as many as possible, and of course I have picked my favorites because I'm sure we all have our biases there. So I'm going to dive into both women's and men's day 1 and day 2, and just share potentially some insights and or surprise packets there moving forward. First match I would like to start with is Sabalenka. Oh my goodness, 6-love, 6-1, first round. I was somewhat surprised, but then not. And I say that because she didn't play her best against Rybakina in the final of the Brisbane International. However, Rybakina just blew her away in the best possible way. So Rybakina definitely brought her A game. So I was really interested to see if Sabalenka was going to maintain that level and amp it up or not. And she definitely did. Historically, with the Australian Open, we don't see that many defending champions play really well if it's their maiden slam and they haven't won another since. And I'm not going to share examples, but you can look at historically and I guess ascertain more like where I'm going with that. So that's a really solid start for her. Next in line, Wozniacki versus Lynette. It's really unfortunate that the second set obviously didn't go to plan, and Lynette obviously having to retire. However, Wozniacki being able to win that first set 6-2, I'm somewhat surprised. And I mean that with the most respect here, because obviously she has been number 1 in the world, and she was for a period of time there. And I really want to keep a close eye on her second match just to see how she's tracking, to get a better idea of how her season's going to unfold. But this was really interesting because I think it goes without saying, if you've been a former number 1 player, I know that you know those 8 keys, which is really exciting, especially if it's been inside the last 11 years. And I believe with Wozniacki that is the case. So I really want to, again, keep a close eye on this. And her next match, I'm going to have a better look at those metrics to see how that's tracking, because it's really interesting. All right, we've got Koneva over Sorobes Tormo. It went to 3, which I am happy because the Spaniard has been playing quite well. And again, this is a player I'm going to keep an eye on. So irrespective of obviously not progressing through to the second round, that's a solid performance. Kaniva is relatively new on the block. It's not someone I have been tracking, but that's a solid result. So again, let's see what happens in the second round. Okay, next one, I'm really happy for this player. And I'm sure most of you will agree with me. Anisimova, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, against Samsonova, who was the 13th seed. Now, coming 6-3, 6-4 is super solid. And I think most of us know that Anisimova had a really good season. I think it was around 3-ish years ago. Now I'm not looking at anything, so that's just it's an approximation there. But obviously some really unfortunate things happened, and she's been able to claw her way back, and she has been progressing. This is not the first time she's been able to deliver an A game as an unseeded player and really perform. Look, taking down the number 13th seed, I don't have the rankings right in front of me, but that obviously marks Samsonova inside the top 15 in the world. And so to do that, and it's a good match. That's a 3 and 4, so potentially just one break per set. I'm happy with that. A potential surprise here is Wang going down in 3 against Parry. Look, it's 3 sets, so I'm not going to be too harsh. And I think that's really important to remember, because when a seed loses, and if it is in 3 sets, even if it's in the first, second, third round, I think some people can be a little bit too harsh. But I want to give credit where it's due. So Parry, I have not seen her play, but that's not to say she didn't play exceptionally well. And 3 sets against number 30 in the world, or 30th seed, is really solid. But we have to remember that more often than not, when a player takes down a seed, they don't always follow that up in the second round. So let's see if Parry can maintain that level in the next round. So the next player is Sakari. I was actually a little bit worried about her in this respect and how she was going to perform. And of course, why? Why would I be? Sakari is a solid player. She's been inside the top 10 now for a number of seasons. Off the top of my head, I want to say roughly 5 to 6 years. It could be more, maybe a little less, but I think that's roughly. Again, I'm not referencing or checking. But Sakari has significant potential if she's able to maintain her level of play. I would absolutely love to see Sakari progress to the semi-finals, potentially beyond. A number of years ago now, Sakari, before she was inside the top 10, she was one of those players very early on, tracked to progress inside the top 10. So she's definitely one of my favourites. And so I do have that when I've been able to track them and their performance and go, yes, this is looking good, and bam, inside the top 10. That's how I think exciting how to develop a top 10 tennis ranking is, because it wasn't something I was going to publish. But for you, it means you can do the same thing and apply these metrics to your own game to progress even further and further and further. All right, I don't want to get sidetracked here. Anyway, so I really want to see how Sakari performs. And look, 4-1, I was very happy with the second set. And I really hope she definitely has that potential. But we're looking at, again, that consistency and that maintenance. Yes, access to those 8 keys, but sometimes it fluctuates. So her depth to leveraging her kinetic chain sometimes has some glitches of late, but it could just be very early on in the season, getting out some kinks. And so let's see again that progression, because she's definitely a player with the capacity to go, deeper than most, so beyond the quarterfinal stage, consistently as well. And I'd really like to see that. Okay, I'm going to apologise in advance for pronouncing this name. Fruvertova versus Bogdan. 3 sets. So again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I am not familiar with this player, Czech Republic, but that's a solid performance in 3. A player, again, to keep an eye out on in the next round. Cornet going down against Timofeeva. Now, that's a solid performance in the second set, 6-4. Cornet, I think I heard this was her, I want to say 17th straight Grand Slam appearance. I think it's actually a lot higher than that. So I'm pretty sure I've just shared an incorrect statistic, but if you are listening, please correct me, because Cornet has been an absolutely sensational player who has been inside the top 20. I think she's hovered inside or just outside the top 10 from memory. She's had some relatively good performances at Grand Slams over the years. Not consistent, but definitely has that capacity to be a dark horse. I think in the last, few years, it just hasn't been at that same level, not seeded anymore. But she is one of the senior players on tour. And look, if she can still make the first round and at least make it very strong, especially in that second set, that's really, I think, we should congratulate her, because that longevity is not always seen, but I definitely love it even more and more when I see it. Okay, Parks versus Sniger. So, I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. Now, Parks in 3, I'm happy. Parks is not seeded, but there's been actually a bit of noise around her coming out from the States as a player to watch for the future. The States have a number of players to keep an eye on, and I think Golf, ironically in a way, has set bar, and also Pegula, and obviously Serena we've got, and Venus to thank for that. If you are from the States, I'm sure you can share your own influences and who's most influenced you as well. I mean, I'm going back to, I think, the generation of Sampras and Agassi that potentially would have influenced some of, I think, the more senior players on tour today who are in their 30s. But, which is very ironic by saying senior, because again, humanized approach, real world, we know that's not the case. But I'd love to hear, I think, who's influenced you and why. All right, we've got a couple of other matches I'm going to skip through because I'm just not 100% of that. They've both gone to 3. Fernandez, 7-6, 6-2. Super happy for her. Look, she was a Grand Slam finalist, and then all of a sudden attention was gone. And I think she's really deserving of the attention for that game. And look, 32 in the world, and we all know what's happened to Raducanu, her obviously her ranking, injuries, etc. Fernandez has been able to maintain that level of play. And remember, I think around the time of the US Open, Fernandez was ranked roughly, I think, around the 80s in the world. So she does have a relatively quite solid level of maintenance here that really needs to be applauded, and I'd love to see her progress. But she does have a good game. I'm looking for the weapons to come out, that consistency with those weapons. So when I see that, when I see those metrics are more amplified, is when I'll say, all right, Fernandez is set for the top 20 and she's going to start tracking to become a barrier breaker. Krejcikova gave a little bit of a scare in that first set, but it went to 3, so I am happy. Unfortunately, Krejcikova has had a couple of Grand Slams where she hasn't performed that well. However, Grand Slam champion, but we really need to remember how, I think, incredible that is to reach those heights, but then also to maintain that top 10 tennis ranking. Of course, she's regressed. She has slipped outside the top 10 on a number of occasions over the last, I think, 2 to 3 seasons, but eventually she tracks back in, and she's an exceptional doubles player. So I think it's very important to remember a dark horse on any given day. She has that consistency. She knows when to switch her game on, which is very exciting. I just want to see more of it. And at number 9 in the world, she definitely has the capacity to progress towards the top 5 if that happens. But I'm yet to see it over the last 2-3 seasons. All right, Tsurenko, very good. She's been around for some time now, and it's really nice to see her play well. It was against Bronzetti. 3 sets, very solid. Let's see how that maintenance goes and that level of consistency in the next round. Okay, I think that's a wrap for most of those matches, and they were on day 1. Now let's move over to day 2, and there's some really exciting matches here that are worthy of, I think, some additional insights. Biggest match, even though it just wrapped up last night, although this podcast or this episode will not be live until tomorrow, so let's say 2 nights ago. Garcia, Osaka. Oh my goodness. And look, Osaka definitely played better than Brisbane, and I was really interested. And I want to take out or draw out some key insights because I was paying close attention to this one. Garcia, former top 10 player, she's on the verge of progressing back. WTA Finals champion. She knows what it takes to, I think, topple top 10 players. And I was a little bit concerned because if Osaka brought her A game, Garcia would have been done. That's what I was thinking. And you know what? Osaka was very close to it. I saw glimmers of her top 10 status in that game. And definitely if she maintains that level of play this season, I think without a doubt she'll be back inside the top 20. Obviously, having opponents like this in the first round is not very helpful. The biggest thing for Garcia is that I really thought there was going to be a moment where she might choke, feel the pressure. And I really want to take my hat off to her because that was not the case. 6-4, 7-6. I anticipated a third set with Osaka's level beginning to rise. However, I think the biggest takeaway here is that Osaka played relatively solid in that first set. Look, 6-4, of course, that's really solid. But what's noteworthy here, Garcia did not lag, so she was that better player. Metrics, when we're looking at Osaka more specifically, were they at the level they were when she won her 4 Grand Slams? No, they were not. Were they at the level of a top 20 player? They were. Top 10 player? Not quite. And I say that because of key metrics. But the most dangerous thing about Osaka, when her metrics align with that top 10 tennis player, and now if you use the rest of her game, she's definitely primed for top 5. She has that power packet that really packs a punch, how she really slaps that ball, but she's not leveraging her kinetic chain as much as she used to, and that's the thing. But at the same time, it makes her that much more dangerous. There were glimpses, but when we're looking at the level of frequency, rate of application, it's not in line with that ranking range, but this match could have gone either way. Osaka, definitely, I would not have been surprised if she progressed to the round of 16, by all accounts. And potentially, if she did not have Garcia in the first round, that may have been the case, again, with her current metrics. And progressing, again, it would not be surprising to see Osaka in the finals within a season. Give it a season and let's see how she goes, because we all know Svitolina, how exceptionally she's been playing since she's been back. So these players, do no way, shape or form am I writing them off just because they've had their time off and started a family. No way. I think it's even more exciting and phenomenal that new mothers who have come back after giving birth after 6 months, that is almost unheard of. And to be at the elite level, the top level of play, oh my goodness. And I think there's at least 8 women who are mothers at the Australian Open playing, which is super exciting. I think there's a very big new trend. All right, Garcia though, after I think sharing that on Osaka, Garcia played solid. I really want to see if she can maintain that. If she can maintain her form, how she played Osaka, round of 16, definitely. Can she get to the quarters? Potentially. Let's see the lineup, her level of maintenance, and how that goes. All right. A couple of other players. Look, I'm going to apologise for this pronunciation. Kalinskaya versus Volynets. 3 sets. I'm actually not familiar with either. Neither of them are seeded, but that looks very solid. So I want to see how Kalinskaya goes in the next round. Ondreeva actually came out on top against Pera. Pera had a really good, I think it was Adelaide International she played and performed quite well. There was an upset there. I'm not too sure which one it was, but I do remember she played relatively solid, especially for that unseeded player. Ondreeva though, way to go. I'm pretty sure this was one of her maiden Grand Slam appearances. And so that's a very good result. I'm going to be very interested to see how she tracks in the years to come. I don't have anything in front of me, but I'm pretty sure we're talking teenager here, quite young. And obviously to be in the first round of a Grand Slam as a teenager, young teenager, is absolutely phenomenal. But we really want to be careful about the strain, the pressure, how that's all managed. So obviously I'm more I want to encourage the younger players to hold back, to wait till at least they're 18, 19 and to steadily progress, because we've seen a couple of players with those injuries that we really need to be cautious of. Kalinina versus Rus. Rus 6-1, 6-love against the number 24, the 24th seed. That's brutal. So let's keep a close eye on Rus. Hadid Meyer, 3 sets against Fruvatova. I apologize for the pronunciation, but no, that's very good. 3 sets. Let's see how that tracks. I potentially would have expected straight sets for the 10th seed, but Hadad Meyer has regressed in the rankings and then has progressed again. So I want to see how that maintenance goes and her performance, because historically it has not been, I think, up there as consistently as other top 10 players. But look, 3 sets, top 10, she's got my attention. So let's see how that tracks. A player who I thought, I wasn't too sure how this scoreline was going to unfold, Badosa Townsend. I really thought it was going to be a lot closer for Badosa to come out 6-1, 6-3, and that second set was looking that it potentially could have been again a 6-1. But Townsend, her serve really started to switch on in that second. And look, Badosa, was she playing phenomenal? No. But it's a really solid result to have her back. So I really want to keep an eye on her to see how that progresses, because of course, former top 10 player. However, I know that she did have a stint at number 2 in the world, though her metrics at the time were not aligning with that. And it was a period where a lot of players slipped into the top 10 without Grand Slam results. And it was more of a case of external tournaments throughout the year, playing a lot and doing good rather than focusing on the top level of play at Grand Slams and progressing. So Badosa has not progressed deep into a Grand Slam yet. Let's see what happens this time around with her injury layoff. Now, I think if she stays healthy, she can potentially progress inside the top 10 again progressively. I really want to underscore that. Jabeur. I actually thought this was going to be a little tighter. I'm not going to pronounce her opponent's name because I cannot. It is a very big one, so I apologize for that player. 6-3, 6-1, that's quite solid. Was Jabeur playing her A game? No, but that's okay. First round, 6th seed, definitely has the potential. Is hard court her surface? Not really. However, please prove me wrong, because players can be incredibly versatile and they can adapt, and that's only historically again what I've seen. And Jabeur is a very interesting player and definitely has the game to adapt. So again, let's see what happens. Gulbik, 3 sets against Kudermetova. That's quite solid. Kudermetova, 15th seed, tiebreak to begin with, and then it was 1-6, 6-1. So that's a bit brutal on either side. And I think that says a lot. That's a very close match with ups and downs. And let's see how Gulbik goes then, second, third round, if she's able to progress, because that's actually quite interesting. And this is a player that I have been hearing more of. So again, there's a number of players who are on that radar, but we need to see if they stay on the radar, which comes through with their consistency and that maintenance. Putseva, out against Zakharova. Again, I apologize for the pronunciation. 3 sets. Siniakova versus Christian, 2 sets. Siniakova, I've heard some good things about. Let's see against that level of maintenance, straight sets. Fretch versus Seville. Oh my goodness, this was tight. As an Australian, my heart breaks a little bit for Seville, but Fretch, she played very solid. Because look, we've got 6-7, 6-3, 7-5. That was a very close match. And we've had a lot of close matches in the first round. Mertens got through against Sheriff, although a walkover in that second set. But it looked, first set was quite clean. One of the matches I was more excited about was Pavlyuchenkova against Vekic. So much so that I've written a blog piece this week on it and just looking at, I think, their metrics more deeply. So if you're interested, by all means, check that out. Aim at International or Medium. This is a really good match. Scoreline does not do its service. Well, it kind of does, actually. I take that back, because 4-4 is very close. And both of them had their peak periods, but definitely Pavlyuchenkova, she deserved to win with how she was playing. And look, she's been a Grand Slam finalist, and irrespective of her ranking, she has regressed in the past. But typically throughout her career, she's been top 30, top 20. And she has, I think, hovered around the top 10. I think 11 was her peak. And so in the teens, she does have that capacity to progress to the round of 16 quite consistently. But I think that's the thing, consistency, to see more of that. All right, a couple of other matches on the women's side, I think, to pinpoint. Seigman got through against Alexandrova in 3 sets, and it was 11-9 in the tiebreaker in the third. That's almost heartbreaking for the 17th seed to go down, but what a solid result for Seigman. All right, Gorf, this was impressive, against Schmidlova. I hope I pronounced that right. That was very solid. 6-3, 6-love, brutal, great. I really wanted to see how that US Open champion was tracking, because again, we see a lot of US Open champions not perform as well at the Australian Open because there's that regression. But if they perform well and they're able to maintain that form, they're very likely to get to the quarters, to the semis, and even towards the championship title. And we know Osaka was the one who has done that previously. And obviously there are other players who have as well. Not many though. I'm pretty sure Serena has to be on that list somewhere. But again, I don't have the statistics in front of me. But Gorf, very good. Let's see how she tracks. She is incredibly likely to get down to business with these type of score lines, I think, in the first 3 to 4 rounds. Hunter versus Irani, this was solid. Storm Hunter, she came through qualifying, and we know Irani was very solid at the peak of her game, but she is still playing, which is really good for her. But 4-3, that's great. I'm really happy for her. Yastramenska, wow. Vondrasova, 6-1, 6-2. That was absolutely brutal. I don't want to take anything away from Yastramenska because she deserves the win. But without a doubt, Vondrousova, she was not there. Her game was not there. Her level was not there. Number 7 in the world, 7th seed, it was not there. She was not able to find a rhythm, a flow in any way, shape or form. All credit to Jastromenska, but I'm going to say potentially the heat was not working with her. Something was not right. Her game just was not there. It did not show up. So for Jastromenska to be able to handle her own side, her own business, and wow, 6-1, 6-2, play her own game was really solid. I'm feeling for Vondrousova though, because her game just was not there. I'm not sure what happened, but there was not how she normally plays, not how she played to win that Wimbledon championship. So let's see how the rest of her season pans out, because it's my heart breaks for her again for that scoreline. But then again, it really her game was not there. I think it would have been a different story if she was playing really good and Jastromenska came up against that level of play with that scoreline. It's a very different story. But for 1 and 2, it's understandable for the way that Vondrousova played. That top 10 status was not there. Svitolina Preston, irrespective of my Aussie status, 6-2, 6-2. I think it goes without saying. I'm a very big fan of Svitolina because, look, 19th seed already. Super excited for her. She is definitely tracking to crack the top 10 again, so to become a barrier breaker, which I'm really excited about. I'm rooting for her because by all accounts, she has been tracked with our predictive analytics to crack the top 10. And I would say potentially that round of 16 or further performance would get her closer towards that top 10 ranking. And she's definitely deserving of that. This was clean. Svitolina, even, making that finals, the finals in Auckland, well deserving. This player, despite her time away, definitely has the 8 keys, and it really is a pleasure to watch because Svitolina has to be one of the most underrated players without that Grand Slam title. Does she have the weapons to obviously claim that Grand Slam? I'm not sure. It's going to depend on her opponent on the day, but I will never write Svitolina off because of her level of play and that I've been tracking her for a number of years now. So that was a really solid match. I think Zidansek going down to Podoroska. Look, even though it was 6-1, 6-love, that's very brutal. Zidansek actually has performed quite well over the years at Grand Slams. She was around 80, so much so that she's featured in one of the texts in the What Is Your Game Missing series. So this was actually a bit ouch going down this brutally. Though I know she does have the capacity to play well. So it obviously means that she only has access to 1 to 2, 3 maybe keys. And if she's able to ascertain and grab onto those 8 keys, I have faith that she will progress further, and I'll be quite excited to see that. I think, the other matches, we've got Buzakova going down, so the 31st seed against Noskova, and then Wickmayer went down against Gracheva. Now, I really want to switch on over to the men's side because we've had some really interesting matches here, and oh my goodness, TFO, Courage. Wow, 4 sets. I'm really happy for that. But the biggest one, Djokovic versus Prismic. To learn more or to, garner more insights here, I even wrote a piece on this for day one. Specifically, this was my match of focus. I am going to try to do a little bit more over this fortnight. Djokovic, Prismic is a player to watch. I'm not going to share too much here because I feel as though I've written about this, but he's definitely a player to watch, irrespective of his ranking outside the top 100. He is poised to track inside the top 100 and steadily progress. I would not be surprised by the end of the season if he's ranked inside the top 50, if he's able to maintain that level of play throughout the season. And we all know if you're able to track back inside the top 50 from, I think it's around 155, in the world, Next stop is top 30, top 20. So 2 seasons, top 20, if this level of play is being able to be maintained. Potentially it could be a lot sooner, although I really like that more progressive approach over that time frame. Why? Because we know historically you're able to maintain those results. If it's really fast and quick, the likelihood of you being able to maintain is not as high. You have an increased likelihood of regressing outside the top 10, for example, if it's too quick or overnight. Okay, for more on that, how to develop a top 10 tennis ranking along with the 7 keys to optimize your life. Harris went down in 4 sets. Now, even though he's not seeded, he has had some really good performances. So much so, again, that I know he's featured in one of, I think, those texts in the series. Kubler going down in 5. 10-8 in the tiebreak. In the 5th is absolutely brutal. This was a really solid match. I was really impressed by it. Both of these players, look, they both deserve to be in the second round, but we know, first rounds aren't like that. But that's really tough. I think all credit to Kubler. He's healthy, and I really hope for him he can have a healthy season, because if he can, at this level of play, he definitely can progress to inside the top 50. Fritz gave a bit of a scare. 5 sets. But I want to give Diaz Acosta, apologise for the pronunciation, some hats off here, because Fritz, 12 in the world, he has regressed outside the top 10. No, he was not playing like a top 10 player. Recall a few episodes back that I did share that Fritz was more likely to regress outside the top 10, which has been the case. So I'm not shocked by this. His level of play was not in line with number 12. He's potentially going to struggle. He needs to find that form again. So this shows us that he's lost the 8 keys. He's only got roughly, let's say, 5 to 6 of those keys at best he's applying throughout his game, and that's why he's regressed outside the top 10. He definitely can, but he needs to find that level of consistency and maintenance again. That's not saying that this is a write-off for him. This can happen over the next couple of days in his matches if he's able to find that form, but we will not be surprised if this happens again and there is regression, because we need to see those highs again. Baez against Wolf, 4 sets, walkover in the 4th, but I have not been tracking Baez, but this is quite a really good result for the 26th seed. That definitely would not have been easy. O'Connell coming out on Garin. Garin, former top 20 player. I think roughly he was ranked around top 15 in the world. Now, roughly I think he's around 80-ish in the world. O'Connell, good for him. 5 sets. Again, another Aussie coming through. And I'm saying this because these Australian players are out of the limelight. We've got another player I won't name that typically gets all of the attention. So I'm really happy to see these ones coming through. 5 sets against Garin. That's a very solid performance. I want to see the second round, because I'm going to guess that tank is empty for the second round. But I definitely could be wrong. Let's see again how that tracks. Rublev, that was a big scare against Saboth Wild, the Brazilian. Wow, 10-6 in the 5th. That was wild. The pun is not intended, but this was very interesting, because obviously definitely could have gone either way. Now I want to see how Rublev plays for the rest of the tournament. If he's able to maintain that number 5 seed status, or if this match took too much out of him, which is incredibly likely. Silic down in 4. Not so much surprising, given his longevity on tour, but 4 sets is really solid. Cerundolo against Sweeney. Apologise for the mispronunciation there. 5 sets, that's solid. If you can take a player to 5 sets and they are seeded, that's solid. So again, another Australian taking the 22nd seed to 5 is very impressive. That caught my attention. Sinner against Vander Zandschulp. apologise again for the mispronunciation. Was Sinner playing at his best? He actually wasn't, but that's okay. He was playing good enough. 4th seed. I think this is his highest seed at a Grand Slam. I could be wrong, but he's definitely getting up there. And Sinner has been tracked for some time now to progress not only inside the top 10, which is done, and so we tracked that before when he was hovering outside, because Alcaraz did crack the top 10 before Sinner, but we knew Sinner was on his way. And this steady progression that he's done, I really like, and that's what we favour. And again, what the metrics and statistics favour as well, as long as a lot of other data that is shared in the multitude of texts. But consider how he played, that's good. I want to almost compare that to Djokovic, whereas you don't have your A game yet, but he's on track to progress towards that A game, if you're following. So I want to see his 2nd and 3rd round and have a look how that progresses. Arnaldi versus Walton, 3 sets was quite solid, and I'm really happy, I think, for those type of results. All right, a couple of other matches we've got is, oh my goodness, Thiem going down in 5 is almost heartbreaking, because I'm really rooting for him to, progress back at least inside the top 30. But Felix, or Ger Alissime, I don't normally pronounce it because I know there's a bit of a mispronunciation going on there, but 5 sets for Felix. He's obviously regressed. He was the top 10, and I'm really looking to see if he can track back towards the top 10. 27th seed. This is no surprise. I'm really happy in a way it went to 5 because it's Thiem against Felix. Let's see Thiem, fingers crossed, have a better season, because again, like I said, I'd love to see him back closer towards the top 30, top 20 would be wonderful for him. But the same goes for Felix. Let's see if he can maintain that level of play and find, I think, that level of maintenance that got him inside the top 10 to begin with. Hurkacz, 3 sets against Jessica. That's solid. I definitely would have thought that would have been over a lot quicker. However, that was not the case. So Jessica actually really made Hurkacz work for it. Struff, 5 sets against Rinky, another Australian, 10-8. In the 5th. That's just brutal, but in a really good way. You're seeing we've got another 3 or 4 Aussies coming through, but they're losing out in that 4 or 5 sets in the first round. But that really shows that that level is there, which I think is quite exciting. The biggest match I was looking forward to, irrespective of a bias, De Minaur against Raonic. De Minaur, you've heard me touch on Alex in previous episodes. He's been tracked with our metrics to progress inside the top 10 over the last couple of years now. We have been watching him, or I have been. And making the top 10 just before the commencement of the Australian Open, I'm super excited about. Oh my goodness, he deserves it. And I think it's been 18 years. The last Australian male top 10 player was Hewitt, who's also obviously a part of his team and mentor there. But what I really want to draw attention to is Raonic. Raonic has been out with injuries, which is incredibly heartbreaking. But 7-6 to the first set to Raonic, and you know what? I wasn't shocked. Why? Raonic, around 11 years ago now, before he was inside the top 10, he was tracked with his metrics. So this is at the very beginning of, I think, the data, the research, when it really got down to the nitty-gritty. When I was going to events, tournaments, and interviewing coaches, players, and collecting all of that stuff back then, Raonic was a player. I thought that you are doing exactly what my metrics are aligned to do, and you're going to progress to the top 10. And you know what? He did. And he kept tracking, and his results were really exciting. And that's how I knew, obviously, going back 11, 12 years ago now, how good and how I was able to pinpoint these players to progress and what they needed to do to ascend towards the top 10. And look, now we've got Alex because we knew. And again, it's progressive. It's not overnight. It's not just in one season. We want to see it progressive, and that's really healthy. Obviously, that rate of progress changes, and we've got blog posts on that as well. Goffin going down in 4 against Humbert. Look, 21st seed, so it's not surprising, but oh my goodness, it's Goffin having the longevity on his side. Monfils, even more exciting. I think in 3 sets, you can never write him off. It's so exciting. Let's see how deep he can go. Murray down in 3. I was really hoping he would push through to at least, the 3rd, 4th round for him because he's been playing really well. But look, going up against the 30th seed, 4, 2 and 2, it's not as bad as it could have been. But Echeverry, he obviously played quite solid. Murray was not playing at his peak, but by all accounts, he's not playing, his current peak and how I've seen him play. Echeverry just, I guess, didn't let him. But I'd really love to see Murray bring that level again. Eubanks against Daniel in 3, Zhang against Coria in 3, and that was 6-4, 7-6, 7-6. That's a brutal there as well. Thompson against Vucic, 2 Aussies, 5 sets again, and I know you're saying with me, what is with these Australians and just pushing to 5 sets, because you know what, we like hanging in there. But then I say that and you've got Kovacevic versus Tabilo. I'm so sorry for that mispronunciation, but you've got the Chilean, I want to say, against the American. I apologize again if I've got that flag incorrect. 5 sets is really impressive. You've got Kakanakov against Altmaier. That's 4 sets, 5-7, 6-3, 7-6, 7-6. Oh my goodness! But that's not surprising. Let's see how the 15th seed tracks, because he does have the potential to do round of 16 and further. And yes, I am trying to wrap this up. Shapovalov has been out for some time now. 3 sets down against Mensik in the first. I was hoping he would get through at least to the 3rd round, so it's a bit disappointing. I didn't have a chance to watch it very closely. I only got a window into 1 or 2 games, which didn't say enough. But I would really like to see him find that form that got him. I think he was able to crack the top 10, become a barrier breaker just for a short period of time from memory. But he has that potential, but we need to see him be healthy and have a full season with those results. Tsitsipas, going down the first set was not shocking. He definitely was not playing his A game, and how I'd seen him in warm-up events was not ideal. But look, 6-1, 6-1, 6-3, the last 3 sets, that's solid. So for the 7th seed, I really want to see how he tracks. Is he playing at that level that brought him to the finals last year? No. But again, let's see how the next few rounds pan out, because I want to see if that he ups his ante, which is incredibly likely. Wawrinka, oh my goodness, against Mannarino. 5 sets, 6-love in the 5th. It's very brutal, but that was solid. Wait for them to toe the line again for those 4 sets. That was actually quite close. I think in the 4th was 6-3 to Mannarino, and I'm going to say that Wawrinka definitely run out of gas. But well done to Mannarino. 20th seed, Wawrinka, again, I'd love to see him back inside the top 20 at least, but he is more senior on tour, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have that level of play in him. A couple of other players, Shelton against Bautista Agut in 3 sets. Now, he's a dangerous player, Bautista Agut, because we know he's been, I think, inside the top 10 or hovered outside from memory, and he's definitely in my text. Shelton, though, very good. After his performance in Brisbane really didn't live up to the hype, I think it was, 3 sets here was very good against this type of player. And he's 16th seed, so it's good for him. Let's see how the next couple of rounds track out and if he's able to maintain that. I'm really looking forward to this because, of course, he has the potential, and I really want to see if he can just push that barrier a little bit further. But I'd love to see him. He definitely has the potential to crack the top 10, become a barrier breaker, but let's hold off. Not too soon because I want to see that trajectory, so to make it progressive. Though I think he could be a little bit impatient in that respect, but I think by all accounts, he's one of, I think, a handful of players to watch this season. But I'm going to track it back to Alex de Minaur, new top 10. He's definitely on the radar for good things. Medvedev in 4 sets, walkover though in the 4th, quarter 5 sets. Again, 29th seed, he does have that potential. And quarter really is of the era. He's very young, of Alcaraz and Sinner and Rune. So he has that potential, but he hasn't progressed as much as those 3. But again, 5 sets, he does have key metrics. Does he have all? No. But he is always a player to keep an eye on. Mazzetti is also, on that radar, 25th seed, potentially not at the same level, but I want to see, if he's able to, I think, pull those keys together more and progress. We haven't seen that today. But look, first round is through in 4. The other match I think we're going to finish on is Gaston against Caballas Baena. 4 sets was a very solid. I think I had a slight peek and I thought it was probably going to go the other way. And then you've got Jari going down to Caboli in 5, and that's the 18th seed. And that really wraps up, I think, these matches. But I think from day 1, day 2, the men's side and the women's side, this is really exciting. And I'm looking forward to today's matches, which is the final rounds of the first round, which is going to be really exciting. So the ones playing today, do miss out. That said, I will try to include them in future episodes. And again, for our special edition of the Australian Open, I'll try and let some more episodes out to include this. And I really want to encourage you to track back to these matches, because at the end of the day, these insights are for you to learn, whether you are playing and I have mentioned your name, or you want to track towards the top 10, whether you're 500 in the world, top 50 in the world. Let's get you progressing closer and closer towards that top 10 tennis ranking. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really hope you enjoyed those additional insights in our special edition for the Australian Open. Look, to learn more, obviously head on over to AMA International to grab your copy of my new release, How to Develop a Top 10 Tennis Ranking. You can find it on AMA International or Amazon. For any comments or questions, head to AMA or Topic Thread, the social platform set on data privacy, or to interact with Beyond Top 10 Tennis, head on over to Twitter, Threads or Instagram. To catch up on our weekly coaching tips, head on over to TikTok, and to catch up on our blogs, head on over to AMA International and look for our blog tab, or head on over to Medium. And as always, I'll leave all of the links in the episode notes. For something different, head on over to Pink Octopus Books, where my fictional release is. To view this week's question and poll, be sure to visit Spotify. Or for something left of field, visit sprue for some random polls. And of course, if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, like, share, and all of the above would be absolutely phenomenal. For those of you who are interested, we do have scholarships available on AIMA International, as well as options to work with me exclusively to optimize your performance and to nudge you closer towards that top 10 tennis ranking. So don't be shy and come and say hi. On that note, thank you so much for listening. I am so incredibly grateful. I am your host, Dr. Ashley Morgan Berge, and this is Beyond Top 10 Tennis, and I'll see you next time.